Welcome to Real Estate Exposed, helping people in San Diego buy, sell, and refinance their biggest investment, delivering you timely truths, exposing important issues, and helping you get into the right home. Here are your hosts, real estate expert Daniel Beer, top-ranked professional by sales volume at one of San Diego's largest brokerages, and his mortgage partner, Todd Pianin, with over $2 billion in funded loans.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Real Estate Exposed here on News Radio 600 Kogo. Awesome being with you on another Sunday morning, and I'm Daniel Beer with Beer Home Team. We've actually rebranded the team from the old Daniel Beer Group to Beer Home Team over at Keller Williams, and my man Todd Pianin, Home Street Bank, the best lender in the business, bar none. What's happening, Todd?
Good morning. Good morning. Having a great Sunday. It's a football Sunday day, so, my Cowboys hopefully are going to be playing really well. Rebrand. Talk about the rebrand, Dan. As first I've heard of it.
Yep. Well, I thought I'd surprise you here on the air, but essentially it's a subtle thing. It's just pulling my first name out of it, Beer Home Team, giving the team more of a focus, because that is where our competitive advantage really lays, right? That's where it is. It's in the fact that rather than dealing with someone that's trying to master 10 different roles, when you're working with the Daniel Beer Group, get 10 different masters of one role. And so Beer Home Team is now the name of the team. And that specialization is really where the entire real estate world is heading. That is where the most successful teams are heading across the country. And we wanted a name that better exemplified that concept. And if you're looking to buy or sell a property, you have to ask yourself, why do you act and do certain things in your real estate purchase and sale that you would never do anywhere else in your life? Right, Todd? Like, you would never fly in an airplane with a rookie pilot.
Correct.
You would never do surgery with a general practitioner. Right? You'd get a specialist. Not only would you get a surgeon, but you'd get a surgeon that's a specialist in that type of surgery, right?
Well, you don't want a veterinarian to do open heart surgery on you?
I mean, right? Absolutely.
Right.
Of course, you're being facetious with that example, but
right.
That's exactly essentially what happens in the real estate world is people will go out, they won't find out exactly how many transactions somebody has done. I always say you have to make sure that on a yearly basis your agent is doing at a minimum 50 transactions a year.
But how many agents do that, Dan? I mean, 50 transactions. I mean, that's a lot.
Well, is it really? Because it's not even one a week. And if I'm putting all of my equity on the line, then I want somebody that's at least doing it once a week and that has a team of specialists. So that's why we've rebranded, because when you're working with a team like ours, you have a marketing specialist that runs the marketing. You have a listing specialist. You have a buyer specialist. A buyer specialist, the only way you can really, especially in a market like this with tight inventory, that you could hope to get out ahead of the market and have inventory available to you that's not available to anybody else. Because when you're dealing with a buyer specialist that has a singular focus of finding you the right home, and they don't have to worry about all the other functions in a real estate business, then guess what happens? They can go way deeper, right? So they're not just sending you the next home that hits the MLS or that hits Zillow.
So what you're saying basically, Dan, is that the real estate market's changed, and in the past, because my mom was a realtor, right? And so I kind of grew up in the industry where she wore 20 different hats. She worked with buyers, she worked with sellers. She did, you know what I mean? She was always wearing different hats, and she was running from one appointment to the next, all across. I grew up in LA, so all across LA County, she'd be showing a house in Beverly Hills, and then she'd have a listing in Westwood, for the sake of argument. I mean, there's different areas in Los Angeles. So what you're saying is that the market's moving towards more of a team concept, where people are
moving towards specialization. It's who can go deep with you, and instead of your agent running 10 different roles, then instead of that, let's put the client in the middle and have specialists serving them. This is not a strange concept in the general world. It's just a strange concept in real estate. Right. In people's finances, they have their financial advisor, their tax person, their their stock portfolio person, their real estate advisors. They don't have one person doing all of those different things. In the medical world, just like we already discussed, everybody has a specialist. Even in the specialized world of cancer, as an example, you have specializations within that. Where is the cancer located? It's real estate, where for whatever reason the public, including our own families, Todd, just like you just mentioned your mom, and this is exactly how my family operated for years, is the consumer is okay dealing with a generalist, a jack of all trades, master of none, and we're moving completely away from that. So that's why we've changed the name. And if you need to know anything more about that, or if we have a specialist that meets a need you have.
Well, we had a specialist on the show.
Phone call.
We had a specialist on the show last week. We actually had Joe McShane, who's one of your listing specialists, here last week.
That's exactly right. And if you want to know anything more about that, how it would benefit your process, maybe you're in the process of interviewing agents. We'll interview a team, see how that compares, just find out how you're more comfortable. You then get to make the decision, of course. Call 800-676-2420. But Todd, there's a lot of exciting.
Well, can I play devil's advocate? Can I play devil's advocate with you on that, because this is Real Estate Exposed? So I just want to know how. And I don't mean to put you on the spot, Dan, but
you should.
How do you handle somebody who says, "I want Dan Beer. I want Dan Beer. I don't want a listing specialist. I don't want a buyer specialist. I'm hiring Dan Beer."
It's interesting how little that actually comes up, and they would get Dan Beer if what they are looking to do is my specialty. But Morgan Stanley, a very, very successful investment bank. Like no one's looking for Morgan or for Stanley. Okay,
unless you watch The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills or of New York, and you get to see Sonia Morgan.
It's what they're looking for is how do they net the most money on their home.
Right.
What they're looking for, if they're a buyer, is how do I get ahead of all of the other buyers so I'm not stuck looking at the same inventory that everybody else is looking at. How do I actually gain a competitive advantage in this market? And the way you do that is with a specialist. And our specialists are the best in the business. They are the best in the business and across the country. So that becomes incredibly obvious just as soon as you start engaging them in conversation. And so you are that just disappears.
Right, but Dan,
that objection never shows up.
But Dan, would you say that your specialists are almost arms of you, because you've also helped train you coach and train your specialists?
That's absolutely right, and we have a process and a system. So what we've done is we've created a process through which intelligent people can do very, very strong work, very effective work. It's when you go to Wolfgang Puck to restaurant. Right. Maybe you go to Spago.
Gordon Ramsay's restaurants all over the world, right? I mean, he's not cooking every meal, but those are his recipes.
And they're delivering with precision because it's the system and the process that matters. And that's actually a very important conversation, is that a lot of people just don't even really understand what they're looking for when they're engaging an agent. And the proof of that is a lot of the time the first question out of somebody's mouth on the phone is, well, what's the commission? And that points to so many issues. One is that they're not really understanding what hiring an agent is all about. It's not about the commission. That's just the cost, right? That's the nominal cost. It's actually about the value. And so it's about
you get the same.
What is the process?
So you get the same question I get. What is your interest rate and how much are your points? They don't really think of us as they look at us as transactional. They don't look at us as specialists.
Well, but there's the issue, because if you ask somebody what's the commission,
right?
It's like asking somebody. It's like if I just turn around right now and I tell you that I just purchased a car for $40,000,
right?
And well, what does that mean? It means absolutely nothing on its own. Now, once you find out that I just purchased a Kia, a used Kia maybe from 7 years ago,
right?
I've dramatically overpaid, and that is what a lot of people are doing with their commissions. They're dramatically overpaying. But if you find out that I just purchased an SL 500 in brand new with the sports package, well, I just got the bargain of a lifetime because I got value. So opening a real estate conversation with what's the commission is entirely meaningless, because it doesn't matter what number comes out of that person's mouth. They can say something that sounds low, like 4%,
Right.
And you're actually getting completely ripped off because the person isn't delivering value. Or they could say something that sounds, like a 6%, and you're actually getting tremendous value because they're giving you 7, 8, or 9% type work and strategy and intentional process. What you need to do when you're interviewing an agent is dig down to what is your proven process to sell property. How many times have you done it? What is your average list to sales price ratio? And what are your average days on market? And I also want to know those metrics versus the market average. Now I can actually understand that if a particular agent is selling at 99% of asking price and the market sells at 95% of asking price, well, that's 4% better. So if their commission's only 1% more than the discount agent, then guess what? You're still getting 3% back to your pocket in value. That is how you analyze that conversation. But you have to understand their process and what is the proof behind the process, and you have to have that delivered through actual numbers. If you need to connect with us, here's a phone number, 800-676-2420. You might even just have a question, a general question regarding buying or selling, or maybe even a bathroom remodel question. Could be anything. 800-676-2420. We're going to head off to break, but as a teaser, we do have the San Diego home selling workshops. They're coming back. It's going to be November 30th. We're going to give you a first look at that, and we're going to talk about some changes in local legislation that are actually quite real estate friendly. All that here coming up next on Real Estate Exposed, News Radio 600 Kogo. All right, so we're back here on Real Estate Exposed, News Radio 600 Kogo. You're with Daniel Beer and Todd Pianin, and we are talking about we have a lot of changes happening, positive changes actually for once. California, believe it or not, actually clearing the way of red tape, making it easier for us to take advantage of our real estate here in California.
What? That's unheard of, Dan. You got to give me a little more detail. You got to give me a little more detail on that. I've never heard of California, the most over-regulated state in the country, that is making things easier.
Small win, all right, but it's nevertheless a win. We have a shortage of housing, and that's an issue here locally and across most of California, at least along the coast. And so Sacramento has actually voted to make it a lot easier, less expensive, and have less red tape around growing granny flats on your property. So if you want to add a unit to your property for either a family member, a loved one, friend, or whoever, or for rental income, you can better take advantage of your space and actually use it as you wish, believe it or not. California is allowing that. They're reducing the amount of red tape and the costs associated so that we can have more granny flats built, which will be great, like I said, for either income or just more housing.
Well, do you think
that's I thought, very good news.
That is really good news, Dan, but do you think it's because more millennials are still living at home?
Although it's a fact that a lot of millennials are living at home, these guys will not get out of mommy's place,
right?
For whatever reason.
Yeah. So you think maybe that could be part of the reason why they're pushing this through, so that way they don't know what the story is.
Absolutely. So now that's happening, and as far as what's happening here in the local economy in San Diego, unemployment down to 4.7%. Okay, that was down from 5%. So we're lower than the California average. We're lower than the national average, and we're doing quite well, actually. The local economy is doing well. Our companies are doing well, and it's nice to see. I mean, San Diego is really growing up through this market cycle, and if the voters will push through and say yes on C with that Charger Stadium coming, and forget the Chargers. It doesn't matter if you're a fan of the Chargers. If you're a fan of development, of growth, of fun, of nightlife and restaurants and options and a vibrant, rich city that our tourists will pay for, we will not pay for. It's going to be a combination of our tourists and the Chargers themselves that's where the funding comes from, then Yes on C, get out there this November. It is around the corner, and what a good time to be talking about this as political season just revs up, coming off of the third debate, and this needs to be on your mind.
I think it's a great. I mean, I think it's. I'm all for Yes on C. I mean, I think the Chargers deserve and earn a new stadium, especially after their great win last weekend. I mean, you know, I'm not as everyone who listens, as everyone knows, longtime listeners of the show, I am a Cowboys fan, so we have more drama going on with our quarterback than we do with the stadium situation. But Qualcomm needs to be updated, and we need a new stadium for our team. And I think it would be great for the economy. It would be great for San Diego. We could have a Super Bowl back here. So let's vote Yes on C. Get out and vote, folks. Get out and vote.
But remember, it's not even about for the team. It's for our local economy, for the tax revenue, for the vibrancy of the city, for why do they build parks? How much money do our parks generate for us? Okay? By the way, I'm not advocating don't build parks. Great. In fact, go over to Little Italy downtown.
Right.
And there's the new waterfront park. That thing is amazing. It's buzzing with families and children, and it's actually made downtown so much more family friendly now. You can having a family downtown is somewhat of an option because of that park. That it just adds to the richness and the quality of life
of our community.
And that's what this stadium will do. It will be phenomenal, not to mention the convention space attached to it, bringing in more business to San Diego, and that's what we want to see.
So, Dan, let's talk about what's coming up November 30th.
So November 30th is the return of the San Diego home selling workshops. People have been asking for them. They want them. And finally, on November 30th, which, yes, is a ways away, but the good news is you get to be the first to know, we're going to discuss how you net upwards of $62,000 more on the sale of your home and give you the entire blueprint for how it's done from step A through step Z, all the way through. And it's literally the only place where we just paint the entire picture of our trademark 5-day Blitz program that's going to net us over 200 home sales this year, while the average agent is struggling to get 4. And
what's the cost? What's the cost of this sucker? Because you're giving away a lot of secrets.
The workshop is free, and we discuss how you use buyer psychology in your favor to create a negotiating advantage. We're going to talk about staging. What do you need to know about staging? Okay, you're watching way too much television about it, and we're finding that people are going totally overboard and doing often the wrong things because they're not doing them through professional advice, but rather just through what reality TV tells them. So we're going to talk about staging. How do you use that to your advantage? Home improvements, which ones should be done and which ones shouldn't. We're going to discuss the most important concepts of home pricing, which have not a lot to do with the comps and a lot more to do with what professional home sellers look at. That's what they focus on is much bigger, much greater than simply the comps. The comps are what all the masses of people look at. And, of course, the concept of virtual shelf space. That is at the core of how you build a successful home selling strategy. We're going to give you the entire thing. You can literally take the program and the plan, use it how you want. Give it to your favorite agent. Use it, try to use it yourself. You could just take it. We deliver it at our free home selling workshop. It's November 30th. You're getting the first heads up here on the show. And if you want to sign up, there's 2 ways to do it. One is you can go to SanDiegoWorkshops.com. It's SanDiegoWorkshops.com. And the other way you can secure your spot for yourself and a guest is that you can you can call 800-676-2420. That's 800-676-2420, or visit SanDiegoWorkshops.com. That's workshops plural. And you'll have your tickets mailed out to you. You'll have your spot secured. We serve lunch at the noon time slot, and then so we offer it during the day and after work, so it's going to be convenient to you. And come check out the workshop so you can see why they're consistently sold out. Of course, the tickets are free, but we do ask that if your plans change, make sure you let us know out of courtesy, because we need to open up the space as people are always waiting on that, especially as we near the end. So, again, 800-676 2420. And coming up out of the break, we're going to be listening to Todd on mortgage success story, how you could do better than the next guy. That's coming up here on Real Estate Exposed. Welcome back, Real Estate Exposed, our third segment here, heading into the bottom of the hour before we hit NFL Sunday. You're listening to Daniel Beer and Todd Pianin, Home Street Bank, and we're going to jump right in. Todd, you have a story you want to share with the listeners.
Well, you were talking about specialization and you're talking about teams. And one of the things that, we have a lot of referral sources that we get business from. We get business from you guys. We get business from other realtors. We also get business from financial.
You guys have a boatload of realtors.
Exactly. Financial advisors and all this sort. So one of our financial advisors actually gave me a ring just 2 days ago, and he called me up and he said, Todd, he goes, my client paid cash for a property about let's call it 86 days ago, and he wants to recoup most of his cash because he didn't want to deal with the whole loan process at the time, and he figured he could get his cash back when he could take his time and he could do the loan when he wanted to have a chance to do that. Well, he said the clients called all the major big banks and everyone's telling him no problem, but what they didn't realize was that he only had 4 days left, because most lenders will only allow you to recapture your purchase capital within a 90-day period since you purchased the property. You have to apply within 90 days. If you don't apply within 90 days, then they go to standard cash out guidelines. Now, for a lot of people, standard cash out guidelines, it's a lot of money too. You're talking about $250,000 or $500,000, depending upon the program and that kind of thing. This client.
What do you mean by that? $250,000.
So most lenders limit the amount of cash you can take out of a home, right? So most big banks, most lenders, when you do a cash out refinance, people don't want to see you take, if you own a property free and clear, they don't want to see you take it's worth $2 million. They don't want to see you take out $1.5 million in cash. That's just the statistically, it shows that those people could actually take a loan and bail, is what they kind of call it. They call it, refi and bail, basically. So in this case, this guy bought the property for almost $4 million, and he wanted $2.5 million of that cash back that he had put into he put down. And the financial advisor was like, "Huh? I didn't realize." He talked to all these places. I said, "No, dude, you got to get your information into us." And it was on that phone. He said, "Nope." He said, "Todd," he goes, "How come when I talked to the other lenders that I don't do business with, but I was doing my due diligence, obviously, for my client because it's a very big client of his," he goes, "nobody brought this up." And I said, "Well, that's because you work with me, Matt. We ask these questions. We ask you if you're a veteran, if you're trying to buy a house. We know our guidelines inside and out, and we don't want to mislead, misrepresent, or overpromise something we can't do." So here was a situation where, when you're dealing with other banks or other people, and there's a lot of good people out there, I don't want to poo-poo other people, but there's questions that need to be asked because people can be misled so easily. And this client was being misled, and if he if I hadn't told him this information yesterday, and he applied 2 days ago, he applied the very next day, we just made the window. Or he basically, the max he could have pulled out would have been probably $500,000. And it would have been a game changer for him because he had other things he wanted to do with this money. So, I mean, again, when you go into specialization, Taisha and I over at Home Street Bank, we ask the right questions. We want to make sure that, clients know all their options and know what's going on. So, I mean, that's
a great example. Yeah. A great example of just what a specialist knows to ask and what they know to look for and to anticipate issues. Because there's a lot of people that can fix issues once they show up. But I'd really rather deal with someone that can anticipate them and avoid them altogether.
Well, you and I don't like to work in chaos, right? So that's a lot of times why you and your team, send a lot of business to us and try to get us a lot of business because, Taisha and I don't like to work in chaos. You guys don't like to work in chaos. You like to know when something is done, it's going to get done. And we ask.
Believe me, it's not because you're a nice guy, and
right.
It's not because it's simply for selfish reasons. It makes our life easier.
Right. Exactly.
To know that you have the loan.
Right. Exactly. And not that Taisha's prettier than I am, but she is. But a lot prettier. Yes. But it's good that you really need to, and I stress this, and Dan and I talk about this all the time. I don't care if you use Taisha and I. Just make sure you're working with somebody on the lending side that is asking you the right questions, making sure you're getting into the right loan. I mean, Dan and I used an example a while back about, a guy who came in and he was doing a jumbo loan and didn't realize that he could qualify for a VA loan, which blew away the interest rates on the jumbo mortgage as well. I mean, there's so many tricks and tips, and because I've done so many mortgages, over $1 billion of mortgages, Taisha and I have done, we know the questions to ask right up front. And people don't like to hear bad things, but if you at least tell them up front what the bad things are, then they're prepared for the outcome. And that's super important, because I think a lot of people in my industry choose to mislead and then try to finagle at the end. Would you say that's true, Dan? A lot of people you've dealt with? I mean, a lot of clients that haven't gone to us?
All the time. It happens in the mortgage world, in the real estate world, in the builder world. It drives me crazy. I've seen builders are notorious for this. They'll quote you a price per foot, but then you find out that it didn't include the yard, right? Or they quote you a price per square foot, but it turns out that it sounded low, but they actually multiplied it out through all of the non-livable covered space in the garage, which you're not supposed to do. So there's so many different ways to dress it up. I always just say, look, if it doesn't sound right, in the builder world as an example, there's no secret lumber yard, right? There's not a secret lumber yard that's just at half price from what everybody else is buying. So if it just sounds completely off, it's probably off.
Well, I love that. I love that day you and I spent together. We looked at a home, a new home, a builder home. And I love the fact that you said, do you realize, you took out your calculator and you go, you realize that house right next door per square foot, you're paying as much as they are. Whose view would you rather have? Which backyard would you rather have? That house is so more, would you use the word superior to what you're getting?
I don't remember exactly, but that was the gist of it.
Right. Was so much superior, but you're paying the same per square foot, which in the resale world, it's a game changer, right?
You need to have somebody that's going to help you avoid problems, anticipate problems. That's the biggest thing. And if you want to connect with Todd, here's the number, Todd and Taisha at Home Street Bank. Give them a phone call. If you're right now in the process of either purchasing or you want to refinance into these phenomenal rates that everybody else is refinancing into, you'd be amazed at how actually painless it is, no matter how much people scare you out there of what needs to happen for you to actually get a loan done. It's actually quite straightforward. Call them and just talk to them. Have a conversation. Even if you're already in a conversation with a lender, get a second opinion. It's actually the only way to validate if what you have is good. And Todd will be the first to tell you, hey, stick with what you have. You have a great program. Call 800-676-2420. 800-676-2420. Todd, I want to stick here with mortgage. You guys have a program that I've never heard of over at Home Street right now. It's this 10% down equity share program.
Yep.
It's essentially the way I'm understanding it is that if you're looking to get into a conforming loan at 20% down, you come in with 10% down and the bank will actually invest in the property with you with the other. Explain this.
Okay,
this
so it's
incredibly innovative. I've never seen anything like it.
You can, as long as it's conforming or high balance, and we're talking about rolling it out on our portfolio, so it'd be available for jumbo. So it'd be somebody who's got 10% down but wants to avoid mortgage insurance, And basically, it's not us, the bank. There's actually a company, and we're one of the only companies out in the West Coast that has this. It's an equity share program. So basically, you put down 10%, this company puts down 10%, and they're equity sharing with you. You're going to make your mortgage payments at 80% loan to value, but when you go to sell your home, they're going to reap 50%, obviously, of the profits of the when the property sells. So it's like an equity share. They're basically it's like take a REIT, and it's like basically partnering with you because they believe the real estate market's going to continue to improve, and they're helping you get into a home and avoid paying more money than you need to. And they're betting on the come. They're betting on the future.
That is highly interesting. I'll be interested to see, go out 10 years from now, and how did that turn out, right? Like
right.
Who ended up benefiting the most? Who got hurt? How did the banks do? That's going to be interesting to watch.
Well,
it's a great way.
You can see it through reverse mortgages.
Mortgage insurance.
You can see it through reverse mortgages, right? Reverse mortgage is the same principle, right? A bank's going to basically loan you money. You don't have a mortgage payment. It's going to take care of itself on top of itself over the time period, and that's actually turned out quite well for a lot of consumers and a lot of older people who needed money now. But we can talk. It's one of the things we can talk about the home selling seminars. Dan, why don't you tell people, because we're running out of time before we want to get to our fourth and final segment. Tell people about the home selling seminars and how to get a ticket.
So the home selling workshops, it's the official, they say the San Diego home selling workshops are finally coming back. They're making their way back, and it's going to take place November 30th. The tickets are free, and you can reserve one for yourself and a friend just so long as they're still available. And we're doing just 2 workshops, one during the day, one after work, so there's a convenient time for you. You need to make sure that you're there if you're considering a home sale over the course of the next 12 months. Because what we talk about, we touch on staging, we dive deep on, I should say, on home improvements. I mean, that's a big one. It's always a big one. What should you do? What shouldn't you do? If you have limited funds, where should they be prioritized over a different area? And let me at least say this now, just because I have to say this now, even though we'll get into it at the workshop. But just in the spirit of delivering value, I can't get off the air right now without at least saying, if you are considering selling your home and you have different home improvements to do, please don't touch your property until a specialist gets to your home and helps you allocate the dollars to where they are best invested. That's critical. We're going to talk about presentation, winning with presentation. We're going to talk about virtual shelf space and price strategy. We're going to debunk myths of home selling. We're going to talk about the community agent. That's a huge myth. We're going to talk about the time of year myth. Okay, the smartest home sellers are actually gearing themselves up right now because they understand that the masses wait for the spring and summer season. So the smartest home sellers that want to take advantage of the most motivated buyers, which are the buyers we have out now all the way through, let's call it March, which are the people that are relocating, the people that have life events like deaths or marriages or children or divorces, the stuff that makes you move, those people are the ones out there buying now. The looky-loos will come back in the summer. So we are delivering the San Diego home selling workshops where you learn how to net upwards of $62,000 more on the sale of your home, and we show you how to use the buyer's psychology in your own favor to create a negotiating advantage over them. The number to call us at if you're looking for your tickets, they're free, is 800-676-2420. That's 800-676-2420. Or you can also visit SanDiegoWorkshops.com. That's SanDiegoWorkshops.com. And coming up out of the break, we're going to stick with the idea and the topic of effective home selling. We're going to discuss what it means to get a full market response. That is paramount in a successful and professional home sale. You're listening to Daniel Beer and Todd Pianin. This is Real Estate Exposed on News Radio 600 Kogo, and we're going to be right with you. All right, so you're thinking about selling your home over the course of the next 12 months, and you want to know how you do better. There's 2 ways. One is you have to have the right goal. People often don't have a goal, and sometimes they have the wrong goal. If you have the right goal, you're going to give yourself a much better opportunity to get the right result. And the goal is to get a full market response. At the core of it all, the 5-day Blitz program that we've trademarked, everything we teach at the home selling workshops, it's all about getting a full market response so that you're not left the way every home seller is typically left, which is wondering either, gee, why is my house not selling? Or I just sold my house and boy, I really hope I got the best possible value out of it, but I actually have no idea because I didn't get a full market response. I dealt with buyers on a one-on-one basis.
Dan, I hate to ask you.
Exposed right now, by the way.
I hate to stop you in the middle of this, but you always use the word full market response. What is full market response, please?
Absolutely. I just want to remind the listeners, you're listening to Daniel Beer, Todd Pianin, Real Estate Exposed. Full market response means that it basically means that you have what every agent promises, which is the basic concept of the most market value. But if you really look at the typical process that home sellers go through, they get photos taken and put them online, and then they start holding private viewings, right? So you're familiar with this. Buyer wants to see your property on a Tuesday at 10 o'clock. They see your property on a Tuesday at 10 o'clock. The next guy wants to see it on Thursday at 11. They see it Thursday at 11. The typical home selling process has you dealing on a one-on-one basis.
It's me against the seller, basically.
Well, everything's off about it because let's say you get feedback, right? There's no offers, you're getting feedback. Well, what does the feedback really mean? Okay, it's just that person's opinion that came through to that one showing. And so as a seller, you can't take action on that. You have to stay on the market and drag the thing out. Now, let's say that you get an offer. Is it a good offer? Is it a great offer? Is it a high or low offer? Who knows? The only thing you actually know is that the person that came to your house Wednesday 2:30 on their time, on their terms, to compete with you, that's their offer. That's their opinion of the price. So what you see is, and so many of you listening, you've had the experience where you sell your home and then you go to bed thinking, oh my God, did I leave money on the table? And the reason you're left thinking that or asking yourself that question is because you do not have a full market response.
They can
hear what we teach you to get at the workshop.
At the workshops. You can reach us at the workshops at 1-800-676-2420 or the San Diego Workshops.com. I'm Todd Pianin from Home Street Bank, a member of the FDIC, equal housing lender, NMLS ID number 304014, and my buddy Dan Beer.